So we have put together a list of items, a checklist, if you will, that'll help you think about the recovery and resilience program. So first thing is just keep understanding the impact. It's changing every day. You got to keep an eye on it, and I think all well-run companies are doing that. So no earth-shattering advice there, just to kind of continue to watch it. Identify, investigate, the risk events that are impacting you, and how do you minimize their impact in terms of risk, likelihood, and impact analysis. Enable measurement process. How are your employees doing? How's your business doing? So more measurement and more process management that now you have to do probably more remotely as well. So being able to manage that. I recall a visit with a head of healthcare minister in New Zealand, and I remember that we were discussing risk management, and one of the things he said to me was that my biggest risk is reputational risk, because if I run out of supplies, people die. And just thinking that comment is echoing in my head as I think about New York, and we're running out of masks and PPEs and all that. So supply chain is really important to the process, and process measurement is really important. So anywhere we can help, we're here to step up. Focus on current organizational data in conjunction with third-party resources. Again, it rings really true in the current environment where you're relying on, for example, manufacturing organizations to send out those protective equipment. 3M, for example, making the masks for our frontline healthcare workers. So that's a more obvious example of what healthcare industry is facing. Integrate external data sources. So this is an opportunity to maybe streamline through location and other news sources, independent news sources like WHO, World Health Organization, part of UN, and CDC here in the US or in your country, and manage and use the visual data to tell that story on how you're doing, how your employees are doing, customers and partners. So this is a few ideas that might be able to fit into your checklist of recovery and resilience. A few more to wrap up this topic. Generating recovery scenario, right? This is a good time to start thinking about how we're going to get past, once this all is behind us, how we're going to get back on our feet again, and start running like before this impact. So how will the operations come back online? Products and services, supply and demand. Impact on supply and demand could be different than what it is now. Hopefully your demand is going to come back to normal. If you're an American airline, you have more people to go. But in the meantime, you got to keep those planes safe. So they operate. So what that means for American airline is they have to take the plane out every day and run it around the runway just to make sure the tires stay on correctly and the gauges are working right. So that's the type of recovery scenario that American airline has to deal with, or any airline has to deal with. Discover business risks and sharing vital information. So these risks that are specific to your business, I call them KRIs, which we'll talk about today. That's the capability now that's going to be more needed than ever before, right? Because you have less visibility, there's more chaos. So how do you share that information? It's not just limited to your internal staff, it's also your third parties that you rely on, whether they provide a key component into your chemical recipe to ship your sanitizers out the door. You need to buy alcohol, right? So you'll need to be able to really understand these risks that are vital to your organization's recovery and resilience. Spot alternative methods and workflows. So workflows may be changed now and maybe change for some time to come. Unfortunately, even with the pandemic over, we will need time to heal and get back to our normalcy as it can be. And so that's going to impact your goods, your people, your service, and maybe it's the time to look at those workflows and how those workflows will occur. Maybe you need more self-service to get through this remote work period, right? So identifying points of self-service and remote work automation, because this pandemic can continue for some weeks and months. beyond just the immediate quarantine period of 2 or 3 weeks, you may have to work on cycles. One of our customers I was talking to in the Middle East, they're working in shifts now, so to keep that social distancing. They do need people to come in, but they've gone to a model where some come in each day or each week, and the others work from home. So maybe that's a staggered approach to getting back online. So how are you going to manage that self-service? You may need some new workflows, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And after that, developing KPI, key risk indicators and KPIs. So being able to, developing those monitoring capabilities that you may not have in the past. It was people were able to walk next door and ask those questions. Now they're maybe in a different state or they can't travel. So being able to make that as part of your resilience program, which could also be now as well as longer term, right? It's not just about getting through today, but also, building this as part of your feedback loop in spirit of continuous improvement for longer term, to be able to use those KPIs, KRIs, any future uncertainties as well. So that's kind of thinking a little bit forward around resilience beyond recovery, and giving some ideas for you to consider as part of your move forward.